Today, I'm excited to welcome Dean and Steve from the High Nines to Totally Music to chat about their musical career. Welcome to Totally Music. Would you like to introduce yourself?
So I'm Steve from the High Nines, 1/5 of the High Nines.
I'm Dean, the other 1/5 of the High Nines.
It's great to have you both on. So, can you tell us the story behind the formation of the High Nines and how did you all meet and decide to start making music together?
Oh, long time ago, back in 2011.
2011.
Yeah. So I moved up to Manchester from down south, wanting to get in an Oasis tribute band or a covers band or something like that. And joined a covers band that Dean was in called The Something. And we did sort of like indie sort of Britpop tunes all around Manchester. And then that sort of ended and fizzled out. And then I showed Dean a few of my tunes that I've been writing. Um, and then we were like, right, let's do it. Let's do it ourselves and start an originals band. And then we got all the other band members in, which took absolutely ages to find the right people. And then I just went from there. And then we spent the next sort of few years, playing gigs and building the building the fan base up, and just went from there.
I think just to add to that, the Something was a very uninventive name. We was me and one of the lads, and we were discussing what we wanted to be called, and he said, "I don't know what I want to be called, but I do know we want to be called the Something." So I said, "That'll do then." And the Something was born. But the Something, yeah, that was our covers. But when Steve showed me a couple of the songs, and I knew he was onto something straight away. Steve's, to be fair, I won't pay him many compliments, but I'll give him this one. He is an incredible songwriter, and he showed me two of the songs, and I was in straight off the bat, and I still am for my sins.
That was quite hard for you to give me a compliment there, wasn't it, Dean?
Yeah,
I
it
could see
pained
it
me.
in your face.
I'm gonna go home and have a shower after this.
Oh, bless you.
So, how would you describe the sound of the High Nines to someone who's never heard your music before?
I mean, the new stuff. A lot of the feedback we've got. Everyone keeps on saying it sounds like the Roses, like Stone Roses, and a bit like the Verve, but mainly the Stone Roses. Which, I'll take that any day. I'm buzzing about that.
I think one thing we were guilty of when we did this on our first rodeo was, and we're still guilty of this to a massive degree, but we'd write one song that would sound like the Roses, and then another one that sounded sort of really dark and bleak, and like almost Joy Division, and obviously the two were almost poles apart. So we sort of this time I mean, we've got an album. We've got sort of a folder full of probably about 400 song ideas, but we're sort of honing it now to sort of right. Let's stick to this and maybe do that in the future. But it's a difficult one to pinpoint, I think, because we're always writing new things, and I'm sure people who've heard the High Nines for a long time have been on that journey with us and thought, well, that song doesn't sound anything like that. But we're cool with that. I'm personally cool with that, and it keeps it new and fresh. So I'm all right with that. But yeah, the feedback we've been getting about the new stuff is Stone Roses is something that keeps coming up, and like Steve said, there's a lot worse that you can call us.
What are some of your biggest musical influences and how they shaped your style?
The Stone Roses. There's a band called The Music, which um, not a lot of people know about, which like blows my mind. But yeah, they're a band from Leeds that were about in the sort of early 2000s. Bands like that. I know Dean's heavily influenced by like Joy Division and of course like Oasis and bands like that. But yeah, in terms of like the newer stuff, um, definitely been listening to more of like some of that the original like Verve stuff.
A lot of shoegaze stuff as
A lot of
well, slow
shoegaze
dive
stuff,
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Slow dive, yeah. Um, but yeah, it's hard. Like when someone asks you a question about influences, like I think like literally everything you listen to at all, like across all genres, influences you. Like you could take a lyric from a pop song that might inspire you to write a song that's an alternative rock song or whatever. So yeah, but like what the main things that we listen to is like proper sort of shoegazy sort of vibe at the minute.
You've recently released a new song. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, so Daydreaming, released that a couple of weeks ago. So we released it the day before our sort of comeback gig, um, which was good because it's sort of like made a big weekend of it, like having the single release and then the big event of the gig. And yeah, so that's a sort of fairly sort of upbeat shoegazy type. It's probably one of the most poppy sort of commercial ones that we've done. So we thought it was like appropriate to release as our first single. And yeah, we've had some really good response from it. Like I say, like loads of people saying it sounds like Roses, and proper into it. So yeah, it was one of those that sort of came fairly quickly as well. I think it was like written in a few hours, and then we just went from there with it, and knew that it was going to be something that's single material.
I think one thing as well that I've heard, particularly through the recording process of Daydreaming, is every single one of us at some point has gone, it sounds like something that, it sounds like something that, and that's one thing that we always say, that is a good sign. We know it isn't something else, but if it sounds like something else, you're onto something. And one thing about Daydreaming, which is something we've been guilty of writing a lot of probably quite heavy stuff, as we've sort of gone on our musical journey. But Daydream is quite light and sort of not the usual from what you get from the High Nines. So it's nice to write something happy for once. I'm quite enjoying singing that one.
So what's been your most challenging song to write or record, and why?
Oh, probably the one that comes to mind instantly really is we've got this song called Not Worth the Flame that we're working on at the minute. And we came up with the idea about 12 years ago. So it's been a song sort of 12 years in the making. And when we first started doing it 12 years ago, something just wasn't clicking, and we just couldn't, it just wasn't working. Couldn't get like a proper chorus that worked for it. And then we kept on like sort of revisiting it. And then, we have like this hiatus and like, forgot about it. And then when we got back together, sort of T-Bone, who's the guitarist in the band, wrote this really amazing guitar riff, and we're like, that might fit Not Worth the Flame. And then it sort of progressed from there. And then we've managed to finally turn it into this full song, but it's taken so long. It's like 12 years in the making. So that's probably the most challenging one.
I think for me, and this is again, you don't have to tease these compliments out of me for Steve tonight, but for me, there's a song, and it's sort of you'll have, everyone's done it where they've listened to a song and thought that really I can relate. And listen, our songs are whatever people want them to be about, but there's a song that we've actually released called Echoes, and that is the song that I wanted to write about a period in time in my personal life, and I listened to that and was sort of going, this is insane. This is exactly what I would wish I'd have been able to write and never was. So when I was sort of singing that and recording that, that was quite an emotional song for me. So it was, even though I never wrote it, but it's that's probably a challenge in that respect for me, just because it sort of brought out emotions that I sort of didn't even relate to the song in the first instance. But then when I started delving into it and getting the lyrics and stuff, that was yeah. So that challenge, maybe not the right word, but it was certainly interesting to go, wow, this is one of our own songs and it's evoking emotions in me. Yeah, it was something different, I suppose.
It was. So what's your favourite song you've written, and why?
we've got this song called "Let the World Decide," which I wrote before I even moved to Manchester. And I remember writing it, going, "That sounds like proper that sort of Manchester sound." And I played it to a few people, and they were like, "Yeah, that sounds like it. Could have been written by someone that's from Manchester." And then I eventually moved to Manchester, I think that year, and then I think that was one of the first songs I showed to Dean to sort of start up the band.
The first song, I think.
Yeah, and then from there, like it's one we've always had in the set. I think it was one of the first ones we ever played live, and we played it live a couple of Saturdays ago, and people are still buzzing about it. We posted up a few live videos of that gig, and we've got people that we don't even know contacting us saying, what's the name of that song? Which shows that it's like got some sort of, there's something to it, and it's powerful in some sense. So yeah, it's probably that one, Let the World Decide.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be inclined to agree with that. I suppose in terms of writing, I'm always honest about this. Steve does the heavy lifting when it comes to a lot of the writing, the vast majority of the writing. But the one in particular that Stephen and I wrote was, Steve wrote the vast majority of it, but we did a verse each from memory. It was 18 and over. And 18 and over sort of, it's a little acoustic ditty. But it's again one of those that people always say, "Oh, you're going to play 18 and over tonight. You're going to do that." And there's an old video of an old early demo of that on YouTube. It's been doing the rounds for a long time. But that was it was just fun to write. It was very early days. We was in one of Steve's first house. It was just me and him sat there, very drunk, writing songs, and that was probably one of my fondest memories of writing songs.
Nice. So what do you hope listeners take away from your music when they press play on one of your songs?
Probably just like any sort of emotion, really. Like if it has any sort of impact on them, whether it's like happy or sad or whatever. Just that, yeah, invoking any sort of emotion. Whether they can relate to a specific, lyric or something like that. I mean, we've had a few like people message us, from like around the world. There's a few people in Turkey, strangely enough, that have messaged us saying, that's really, I listened to this song and it's helped me get through certain days, and it's really like inspired me to do certain things. And that's like blows my mind that someone that you've never even met, like in another country, that's had some sort of your song that you've written maybe 10 years ago has had an impact on someone. So anything like that, any feeling that it brings up in people is great.
Suppose as well, like we were looking at the demographics from when we first started re-releasing music again, because obviously the data that goes into it now, and so they were like sort of South America was our biggest sort of listeners, and you're thinking there's some kid in South America listening to us. It's just madness, absolute madness. But to think that you're doing that is crazy. And obviously, if you could do that forever, that'd be amazing, of course.
Definitely. So what's one of your most memorable moments you've had whilst performing?
For me, I think Dee might agree with me with this one, but we've had quite a few like stage invasions as we've been playing live, and we did a gig with Scruff the Neck years ago, about 9 years ago or so, at Night and Day. We had like a stage invasion of that, and it was just epic. It was packed, sold out, and it was just like just a great atmosphere. And to get that sort of reaction from the crowd was amazing.
Nice venue.
Yeah, so similarly, there was another one at Gorilla, and I think from memory, Steve, that was sold out, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And we knew it was going to be busy, and we come out with this sort of this plan of how we were going to walk on stage, and we sort of had a flashing red siren, and there was sort of this sort of like a bomb warning siren going off in the background, and it was everything went black and the lights all went off, and then we sort of walked on stage, and that was sort of the closest I've come to thinking we're onto something here. This is incredible, and that was a moment. That was a big moment that won't leave me. That was special. And to be fair, Saturday just gone. We did the gig, and just to be back out there with Steve and with T-Bone, and there's obviously a couple of new lads that have joined the band, but to be out there with those two in particular and do it again,
Yeah.
I could have played that in my front room and I'd have been pleased with it. So yeah, pleased.
So what's your dream venue to perform at, and why?
Old Trafford, without question.
Steve would not play Old Trafford, for the record, and Pete definitely
Wouldn't play at Old Trafford. Turf Moor maybe, but Old Trafford for me, without question.
Yeah, I think like any like big stadium, I'd love to play like a huge venue like Wembley would be absolutely epic. Yeah, any sort of stadium or anywhere in like South America, a stadium in South America would be absolutely unreal.
So I'm going to change that. I've been to Lucca Festival. It's a little festival in Lucca, obviously in Italy, and it's an ancient walled city. It's absolutely incredible, and they've got a little town square, and they only let something like 2,000 people in there. But massive artists play it every year. I mean, when I went, I watched Liam Gallagher supported by Kasabian. It's ridiculous with 2,000 people there in an ancient walled city. Incredible venue. Acoustics are amazing, and the vibes just another level. So Lucca would be up there. Probably wouldn't pip Old Trafford though, to be fair.
So finally, what's next for you?
What's next?
secret, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, we're working on an album, so I hope to get that released sort of end of summertime this year. And it's been sort of years in the making, so that's obviously the big thing for us. And then yeah, getting some more gigs in. We'd love to do some more gigs in the city and maybe some out the city as well. Yeah, just get back playing live again and get into the rhythm of it.
I must say, this time we're here to stay. There's no question about that. I mean, the amount of material that we've got, we're definitely doing 2 albums. We know that much, and we've probably got 4 albums worth, if not 40 albums worth of material. So we've got a lot to be going at, and yeah, we're certainly enjoying being back at it. That's for sure. The creative juices are flowing. That's for sure. And it's interesting as well, without disclosing too much, sort of the difference between, we already know what album 1 sounds like and what album 2 sounds like, and no one's heard anything yet. But it's interesting to see the variation and where album 1 is and where album 2 currently is, and God knows what album 3 will sound like. But it's we've got a lot in the pipeline, that's for sure. A lot.
I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming for you.
Thank you.
So a massive thank you to the High Nines for joining me on Totally Music. If anyone would like to check out the music, I'll leave all the links in the description below for you. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.